This evening, Dr. Kessler is speaking. He is a past president of the Colorado Dental Association. He serves as the chairman for the Well-Being Committee for the state of Colorado and is a consultant for the American Dental Association, serving for several years on the Dental Well-Being Advisory Committee, as well as the Council on Dental Benefits. Dr. Brett Kessler currently serves as the trustee for the 14th ADA District and its representative to the ADA Board of Trustees. As a trustee, he is a chair of the ADA Science and Research Institute, chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, as well as the chair of the ADA's Audit Committee. In 2007, Dr. Kessler testified on behalf of the American Dental Association before the Congress on the ravages of methamphetamines on oral health. He speaks internationally to various organizations and dental societies with a focus on well-being and leadership concepts. Tonight, we are pleased to have Dr. Brett Kessler, our ally, share with us mindfulness and techniques he uses to unscramble his brain.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Big thanks to Corey for twisting my arm to put another talk in. He and I were talking about doing another interview like we did a few weeks ago. But I thought that I would share this and see where we go from here. I absolutely love being part of this group. Sorry I haven't been as active as usual. I've just been on the road doing my thing. So I'll say that mindfulness, I'm not an expert in mindfulness. I've never gone on like a 30-day meditation retreat or hunger strike. I've never climbed the mountain and hid for a year to meditate. But I am an expert in me. And I could tell you that I am my biggest ally, and I'm also my biggest enemy. And it all depends on my brain and my mindset. And so today I'm just going to share some of the things that I do and leave it open for you all to ask questions if you have any. And if you do have a question, please type it in the chat, and Jamie is going to interrupt me, and but then we'll have time for questions afterwards as well. So question is, how do I get this thing to work? Okay, so I'll start by saying these are not my original ideas, just my observations. They've been collected through personal experiences, classes I've taken, and books that I've read. It's also been these have also been passed on to me by the many mentors that I've had throughout my life, and I kind of package it in a way that really works for me. I hope that some of the things that I share, I'm an experiment of one. You are an experiment of one. I'm going to present to you a smorgasbord of items. Take what you feel works for you and leave what doesn't please you. So
you're muted.
Brett, we seem to have lost you.
We can't hear you.
Did you change something with your audio? No, still can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay. Sorry about that. I've lost. Okay. Headphones weren't charged. Okay. My second objective is to introduce the different parts of the brain that are readily accessible and important to accomplishing the big things and to help overcome negative thinking. I'll talk about the importance of growing your emotional intelligence and how it can really help you achieve great things. And we'll talk about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. We'll talk about strategies for overcoming obstacles in the moment, the oh shit moments, setting big, hairy, audacious goals, and using these tools in your life's work. So this is my daughter when she was 10. We live in Colorado, and we just always go up to this Battle Mountain Pass area at sunset, and and just kind of contemplate and watch the sun go down, and totally enjoy the beauty of what's going on. She's a dancer, as you can tell, and she wanted to do some new dance poses that she is good at, and she hates these pictures, absolutely hates this picture. I mean, I see poetry right here, and so symmetry, and what she hates most is about the shoes. And today I'll talk about how I use the mindfulness through the metaphor of me doing the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. I got her these shoes at the Ironman World Championships. They were Kona special, limited edition Hoka One Ones, and it's meant to look like the sunset, and I think it matches perfectly. She gets in these yoga poses and stuff like that, but this isn't a presentation on yoga, although it's a very good methodology to practice your mindfulness. I don't practice it much for that reason. Okay. I'm going to use a different yogi, and this is more about Yogi Berra and some of his philosophies. He had all these yogiisms that made him much more famous than his baseball skills. And I posted today this picture that baseball is 90% physical. It's 90% mental, and the other half is physical. I said everything I set out to do, everything I set out to accomplish in my life is a brain game. Every action is preceded by a thought. Every race, every workout, everything I do, the thought precedes the action. If my mind is in a good space, I seem to perform better. I can overcome obstacles that happen unexpectedly. I recognize and enjoy the moments, and I seem to be happier all around. Most of the time, like all of us, we're on autopilot. And when I get into a rut, or I have a big, hairy, audacious goal, whether it be physical, personal, or professional, I start to plan. The most important part of that plan is, how do I get my mind right? If my mind is right, anything is possible. I was listening to Tim's interview today with Andy Frisella, and he went really deep in mindset in the interview, and it was really cool. I think this will kind of complement what he and Andy talked about today, and what I listened to on that podcast. Also will complement what Lindsay presented last week when she talked about how she overcame what she overcame. Very inspiring. So this is the start of the Leadville Trail Marathon. I moved to Colorado to play in 1999. I'm a very average person. I'm a very average athlete, but I seem to have a strong desire to accomplish the impossible. Through a lot of hard work, both physically and mentally, I've been able to live a life full of adventures and purpose. So this says the start. It's actually the finish. It's turned around. It's the finish line as well as the starting line. And you can tell how fast I am by how many people are sitting in the stands. Okay. And so I'm not that fast, but I just have a real strong drive. And that's what I resonate with. That's why I resonate so well with this group. I'm a dentist by trade. I have a private practice in Denver, Colorado. You can see over my left shoulder, there's a little picture hanging with my picture on it. When I was president of the Colorado Dental Association, my board knows how much I love to run, so they made me a race bib, and I was the 128th president of the Colorado Dental Association in 2014, 2015, and I had an amazing year, accomplished so many things, and that's another talk for another story for another time. But you see, it says leader, advocate, visionary, and I'm most proud of that. That I was recognized as a visionary leader. To be a visionary person, you have to be able to look beyond the obvious or the expected. When I come up with some visionary ideas, not everyone's always ready to accept what I think is great, and sometimes it gets frustrating. And these are, the cleaners are kind of on their own. Most people don't understand their mindsets, they don't understand their drive, and they challenge it. I spent a lot of time in deep thought, questioning my motives. I use the mindfulness tools to clarify that if I'm being true to myself. Every year I go to Washington, D.C., and I advocate for the best practices to Congress in healthcare. And I'm actually on my way there this week. I'm going there Thursday through Tuesday to meet with the Congress people from the state of Colorado to talk about some things. It's a big conference, a lot of dentists from around the country, dental students come as well. And I make, because Colorado is known as the fittest state, I guilt all my colleagues and all my dental students to run with me before the conference starts, because if we're from Colorado, we have to act like it. And every year I end up and we have a little powwow at the Lincoln Memorial as the sun is coming up. And this is the Martin Luther King step. And, you know, and we spend some time up there. This is a picture I took a couple years back. You'll probably see pictures of me posting this on social media this week when I get there, because it's the first thing I do when I go. So when I'm with these my colleagues and my dental students, we spend some quiet time at this as the sun comes up. And that's the Washington Monument for you Canadian people. I like to reflect on his courage and what it took for MLK to speak what was in his heart. It was so controversial, and it actually cost him his life. His words still speak to me on a gut level. I have a dream. So I ask everyone to sit and contemplate for a little bit, you know, what am I doing today? What are you doing today in pursuit of your dreams? I know I've had some one-on-one conversations with some of you, and I've asked you that. What do you do in pursuit of your dreams and goals? I encourage my group to think about anything that they believe so deeply about. How can they change the world? How do I change the world on a daily basis? And I reflect on this every day. With my mindfulness, I can visualize this picture in bright Technicolor in my mind, and I do it in the morning when I get up. These are my board mates on the board of trustees. There's 4 classes. This is my class. We represent the voice of over 160,000 dentists across the country. I still do practice though, and this is my friend Stuart, who's a patient of mine. And a couple of years ago, in 2018, we'll talk about this. That I was invited to go to the Ironman World Championships, and I raised a ton of money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And he's like, Brett, I know you've been training for this big race and stuff like this, but are you ready for my cleaning today? And so I showed up. These are my goggles, my prescription goggles. I put them on for him. I'm like, Stuart, I've been training my whole life for this, and we had a big laugh. So I did my first triathlon in 1993. I wish I still looked like that, but you get old. I did it on a dare. And it was all based on ego. I was a runner, I was a biker, and I had no idea how to swim. And a friend of mine dared me that I couldn't do it. I said I could, and next thing I know, I'm doing it. But back then, when you signed up for a race, it was in the early 90s. You filled out a little postcard and you signed up. You sent a check, and on the back of that card, there was a box to check. Do you want to be entered into the lottery to do the Ironman World Championships? And so I checked that box, and every triathlon I did, I checked that box. Never ever got in. There's no way I could have gotten through it back then. I had no idea what I was doing. Another thing that you have to know about me is that I'm sober. My sobriety date is October 21st, 1998. This is my wife feeding me alcohol. But anyway, my wife is stuck it out with me as I drug her and my family through dark times, and to emerge out of it. And I entered dental school with a drug and alcohol problem, and I graduated dental school with a drug and alcohol problem. I did very well, graduated in the top tier of my class. I got into one of the most prestigious residencies in the country. I hit my bottom, and that's when I realized that I needed help. My body craved alcohol. My mind lied to me and constantly told me I didn't. And that's the definition of addiction. I continued using even though I was suffering major consequences. And triathlon was kind of a form of denial for me. And, my thought that if I could do a triathlon, there's no way I was a drug addict. Because as I'm crossing this finish line, ready to put my arms up, I say to myself, cocaine addicts, crack addicts can't do triathlons. And since I've just finished a triathlon, I must not be an addict. And that drove me for many, 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 many more years. Okay. And the addiction, progressed. So at one point I needed to figure out to do something different. And, running, I couldn't run away from my problems. I couldn't do race triathlons away from my problems. They weren't fixing it. I love this picture because I needed to find a way to unscramble my brain. Okay. I started to listen to people who were able to overcome various challenges, such as their addiction. And there are systems to unscramble a Rubik's Cube and to put it into order. There are also systems and behaviors that can help unscramble my brain. Now, you don't have to be an addict to use these for your own benefit, but I will just drive it home. I know there's other people here who have experienced addiction in their life. If I don't do this stuff, I will go back to the old way, and that's something that I definitely never want to do. But these tools can be used by anyone, and the more you use them, the better you learn about how your brain works, the better you're going to be in whatever you're pursuing. The more a man meditates upon good thoughts, the better will be his world and the world at large. 5-Minute Journal is an app that I use to type in the morning quick journals of things that I'm grateful for. And so when I put this together, I've given this presentation several times to a few, I'd say 5 or 6 triathlon clubs over the last 2 years. And my triathlon coach saw me post something on Facebook about meditation, and he wanted me to do a presentation to our tri club on meditation. I'm like, well, meditation is just one part of it. Can we expand it? And so that's how this was born. Okay, so this is the start line, the transition area or start line of the triathlon in Hawaii. On the right, there's a little cove by those, just behind those palm trees. On the left is where the start is. In 1998 when I did this, I'm sorry, in 2018 when I did this, it was the last year that they did a mass start where everyone started together, and that's a crazy time. And this is the biggest. Remember the dream was hatched in 1993, and this is 35 years later. I'm sorry, 35 years later that I'm finally getting to do this. 25 years later that I'm finally getting to do this. And so I asked everyone I knew, I've trained my ass off and everything. And one of the bit of advice that I got was to go on the right side in the cove where you warm up and go underwater, dive along the bottom, swim for a while, hold your breath, and let out a primal scream to ask Madame Pele, who's the god of the Hawaiian Islands, for permission and for safety for the race. And, I'm not that superstitious, but this was the biggest race on the biggest forum. I didn't want to screw up, and I'll take anything that I can get. I didn't want to go on bad luck. And so I went under there and I did it. I yelled as loud as I could, and, a primal scream from the gut. I came back up, and I went back down again, and I did it. Okay. And I screamed again. And after I screamed that time, I looked over to my right. There's this giant Honu sea turtle just to my right. And he kind of looked at me, gave me a nod. I gave him a nod too. And, and I came up to the top and I just contemplated that moment. I've never, living in Colorado, I don't get to swim with turtles much. I don't get to be underwater much in the ocean, especially in Hawaii. And so I just thought about what a good omen this was. A Honu in Hawaiian culture, it symbolizes good luck, endurance, and long life. Okay. In Hawaiian mythology, turtles show up as a person's guardian spirit. It's known as Aumakua. When you're lost, turtles are excellent navigators, and they often help you find their way home. Okay. And, I sat there and I floated on my back for a while, and I thought about, what the day ahead of me and all the things and that have happened in my life. Several months of focused training, decades after the idea was hatched, I was going to start, toe the line with the best racers, best triathletes in the world. Okay. 2 decades after getting sober, I get to accomplish my lifelong dream. And I said a prayer of thanks
to the man upstairs. And, and I recognize that today, will be filled with grace. And I wanted to stay in that space, that grace, that feeling of grace. I prayed that I had a safe race and I was strong, and I, stayed to my race plan. And I was hoping that everyone around me, had a good race too. So this is the start. Okay. And the cannon fires, and it's absolute chaos. Above the water, you hear the announcers, you hear all the crowds. There's tens of thousands of people screaming. You hear the loud music. You hear people, around you grunting and, pulling and making splashing, and, they're kicking you and climbing over you. And it's absolute freaking chaos. And so I knew it was going to be chaos, and I had to try and get back into that mindset, or stay in that mindset that I was in when I saw the turtle. So I kind of hung off on the back side, and that I think is me. I don't know. I just assume, but I know where I started, and that could be me. And I tried to stay away from the rat race, but as the cannon went off, you could just feel the whole load of water move forward at once. There's a big, momentum and inertia that started. But I had to get back into this mindset of, with the turtle. And once I got going, above the water, there's all this chaos. Below the water, it's total peace. It's you can't hear, you can hear a little bit, but you don't hear the noise from the outside. And I got into that mindset of total peace and grace. And I started swimming. It was a beautiful, beautiful swim. And this is me coming up. I did this race twice, in 2018 and 2019. So I'm going to show pictures from both. But I finished the swim, and it was a great feeling, and I was just happy as hell. Okay. After, I hated swimming when I first started doing triathlons. I had no idea how to do it. And, and over the years, I became a really decent swimmer. And what I've realized when I do these long races, that when I'm in the water, the swim part is the best I'm going to feel physically all day. My body doesn't hurt. My stomach doesn't hurt. I'm not tired yet. I'm just feeling good. And so I said a little prayer again of thanks, that I got through the swim safely and no one died, especially me, but that happens a lot in these things. So, I get out of there and I get on the bike, and this is me in the lava fields. If you know anything about the Hawaii Ironman World Championships, it's hot. They put you through these lava fields. It got over 100 degrees. Those lava fields just, bake, and soak in the sun and bake after you, and you get these winds. So it's like you're in a big convention oven. And I'm going out to the halfway point in this place called Hawi, and it's a pretty steady climb. And I didn't know at first, when I first started this, that it was going to be a climb, because I assumed Hawaii was flat. I'd never been there before, and but it was quite a climb. But coming from Colorado, I was welcoming it and really excited. And this is me at the turnaround at Hawi. I did a fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I raised about $70,000. So that's my uniform that I wore for it. And so I made it to the turnaround, and all high five. Someone saw my uniform and high fived me and got a picture. And I have this picture hanging up behind me, actually, in my living room. And I look at it every day. It was such an amazing feeling. And I know I'm at the halfway point of the race, and I'm feeling like, this is going to be a great day. I'm over halfway, and I'm going to be great. One of my friends told me to we have drop bags along the way, and at the halfway point of the bike, there's a drop bag. And I put, one of my friends told me to put a snack on there that, treat yourself to something that you got this far, something that wouldn't be on the course. So I got one of these those circus cookies. They're frosted, they're pink and they're white, and they got sprinkles on them, really sweet. And it was my treat. And I got back, I ate those, and I got back on my bike, and I knew I was going to make it. Okay. But then the trade winds came. And you probably can't hear it. This is one of my coaches and one of my good friends. We battled 35, 40 mile an hour headwinds all the way back. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a long day. And it's mostly downhill, but it doesn't matter when you have 34, 40 mile an hour winds, and Hawaii's legendary for that. So here I am coming back down from the halfway point. I don't look so happy anymore. Okay. And so what happened was my legs started cramping, and I knew that I better deal with this now, because I have a long day ahead. And you can't control the wind, but we can control our sails. Okay, that's a key point. We've got unexpected things that are going to come up in anything we set out to do. And if our foundation is solid, we'll be able to deal with these obstacles as they present themselves that are unexpected. Okay, on this race, you're not allowed to draft, so you're basically on your own the entire 112 miles that you're on the bike. So my mind plays a lot of games. Again, I told you at the beginning, my mind is my best friend and it's my worst enemy. And when I'm feeling good, my brain is my best friend. When I start to struggle, it starts telling me things like, you've come far enough, you raise a ton of money, maybe you don't need to do this, you don't need to prove this to anybody. And I had to figure out ways to overcome that negativity that was going on in my head. And in my early days, in the training plan that I did, before I did the training plan, I probably would have quit. And I constantly ask myself, am I tired or am I bored? I'm 6.5 hours on the ride by myself, can't really talk to anybody. And, and I was basically bored, and I can overcome that. Another guy who's overcome all sorts of great challenges was David Goggins. And, in his books, he talks about when your mind is telling you that you're done, exhausted, and cannot possibly go any further, you're actually only 40% done. Okay. Your brain tells you to quit, tells you to stop, you're done. Okay. But if you just find a way to keep moving forward, 1 more mile, 10 more steps, can you make it to that tree? You realize your body can do so much more than you think it could. I spent a lot of hours training for this race, and a lot of the hours were because I travel so much doing the advocacy things that I do for the Dental Association. I'm in treadmills a lot, and and doing one of the key workouts that I did several times during this training block was a 15-mile run on a treadmill at race pace. Okay. No change in scenery. Okay. And I think I have headphones on here, but most of the time I did this without headphones. And I sat there and I just, willed myself to keep going. I was able to build resiliency over the year, over the months. Okay. And I got really uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I started visualizing what I was going to be feeling, how I wanted to show up at the finish line. Okay. Especially, so every run that I did, the last mile and a half, last 2 miles, I started thinking I was making that right turn onto a Lee Drive, and heading into the finish line, and my family was going to be there, and they were going to put the medal on me. And this is a good part of my family. 2 of my 4 kids are here. My other 2 kids were up the road a little bit. My brother to the right, who's the bald guy, older brother. My wife is wearing the purple hat, and one of my best friends, and his wife is in the maroon shirt next to her. And it happened exactly like I envisioned it. And that's what was the most beautiful thing about this. Okay. Ironman has a marketing program that's called You Versus You. And they've got all these different pictures of a solo person out doing stuff like this, swimming. I can't say how many hours I spent out in a lake or open water or in a pool, dark pool, swimming. Okay. And I had to learn to run, bike, or swim the mile that I'm in. Okay. Finishing an Ironman, people say congrats on finishing that 140.6 miles. What a great thing. But what they truly witnessed was just the final 140.6 miles of the race. Okay. By then I had, swam hundreds of thousands of yards. Okay. I had ridden thousands of miles on my bike and my trainer, and I've run 1,200 miles running that year. Okay. And I had to learn to, do this physical activity, but there was more to it than the physical activity. It was the mental, mindset that I had to be in to do the physical activity, every single race that I did, every single workout that I did. And I had to learn how to take care of myself to recover. Okay. There's 5 disciplines in triathlon, you think there's 3, there's swim, bike, run. Okay. But you have to get your nutrition right and you have to get your brain right. And so let's start talking about the brain. I'm going to stop really quick and see, Jamie, were there any questions that I can answer right now, or I'm going to take a quick sip.
Yeah, sure. I've just had one so far that, really came as a question that looked for a response anyway. Shadden asked, how long is the ideal training for a triathlon? And he said he's wanting to do something challenging next year once his knee heals.
Cool. We'll talk about that later, but it's a shitload of swimming, a shitload of biking, a shitload of running. That's basically it. But let's go back to the brain stuff. So I'm not a brain expert. I'm a tooth expert. So I always put the smile in there. Okay. That's my expert. I work on that. I don't work on the brain. But when I sign up for the race, in my case, there's 3 parts of the brain that are involved in that. The amygdala, which is the impulsive part of your brain. It's also known as your lower brain. It's where the addiction lives. It's where your primal emotions live. And it needs to be fed. It needs to be rewarded. Okay. Your prefrontal cortex is very inquisitive. It looks for logic. It provides executive function. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? My family's yelling in the background and I lost that. Okay. And there's also the hippocampus, is where memories and learning live. Okay. When I sign up for a race, there's little to no input from my prefrontal cortex. There's no input from the executive center. It's all impulse. Oh shit, I could do that. Yeah, cool. And no logical human being would ever do this race. Okay. That's the bottom line. And that's what my prefrontal cortex says. But my amygdala won and I signed up for the race. It disconnected from the prefrontal cortex and overrode it. Okay. For us to be optimal with whatever goal that we're going to go after, we need to use all 3 to be at peak performance. Okay. And need to be able to access them in different parts and at different times when we need them. Again, I focus on the smile. I don't focus on the brain for a living. And the brain is plastic, and which means that it could be molded and new pathways can form. Okay. And diligence to a physical and mental plan will create new pathways in the brain. Okay. My plan was set up for me. My physical plan was set up for me by my coach. Okay. My mental plan was set up for me by the stuff that I'm talking about today. Okay. To stretch out of my comfort zone, I needed someone to help me do that because I'm lazy by nature. And in order to grow, I have to be out of my comfort zone. And it's really fun to be just outside of my comfort zone. Not everything went smoothly. It was 7-8 months of training. And I had good days, I had bad days. And I journaled about the good days and I journaled about the bad days. What did I learn from them when things went sideways? And these lessons get filed into my hippocampus in the memory center that I can access at a later time if I need it. Okay. If I'm amygdala dominant when I do this race, I will go out way too fast and I won't have any energy or brain bandwidth to move on. Okay. And I'll fizzle out. Okay. The brain works through a combination of nerve impulses and neurotransmitters. Okay. Neurotransmitters are chemical secretions. And, the ones that I'm going to focus on are serotonin, which is expressed in the brainstem, the pineal gland, but 90% of it's expressed in the gut. Okay. The dopamine is where the amygdala lives. This is where the drug addict in me lives. Every hit of a drink or a drug dopamine would explode out there and I would crave it. Okay. Endorphins are what we get from pushing ourselves, and it feels and mimics like that of dopamine. And oxytocin is known as the love hormone, and it's released during sex, childbirth, lactation, and it lives in the hypothalamus. Okay. The key is, can we access these neurochemicals when we need them? And serotonin is the one that is the most important for this. Okay. And it's imperative that we have good gut health, because most of this is secreted through the gut. So I do real a mindful plan on what I eat, so that my microbiome in my gut is healthy, diverse, and plentiful. Okay, it's got to be thriving to help my body digest things and secrete the serotonin. Okay. All these areas of the brain, all these neurotransmitters are important to create an intentional mindset to achieve my goals. Okay. So part of the training, as I mentioned, is diet. If we can get our diet right, that will really help. Okay. If emotional intelligence was a term coined by a Harvard professor named Daniel Goleman, and he wrote a book on it. And if we have a high EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, we're able to recognize our own emotional state. Okay. We're also able to recognize the emotional state of others and engage with people in a way that draws them to you. Okay. Why is this important? Okay. What's the benefits of growing your emotional intelligence? We relate better to others. We form healthier relationships. We achieve greater success. We have a more fulfilling life. Okay. And so if we can grow that part of our lives, that part of our brain, we're going to have a better life. Okay. 4 components of emotional intelligence. There's personal competence, which is basically an inside job. What the self-awareness, what am I thinking? And identifying what am I thinking, then how can I manage that? And we'll talk about that in a minute. The social competence is outside of you. Now that I'm okay, I know what's going on in my brain. What are you feeling? Can I grow my empathy and walk in your shoes, or look at life through your lenses, so I can understand what you're going through better? And it gives me better social skills. What are you thinking? From the guy who thought the deepest in our modern times. It's a key question I ask myself all the time. So, right now, other than total boredom, is this resonating with you? Someone give me a thumbs up if it's resonating. Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Being able to recognize the emotion and experiencing this in real time can be useful in overcoming any obstacles. What is my mindset? Okay, am I in a fixed mindset? Am I in a growth mindset? Okay, fixed mindset, although I'm scared to fail, I live in bravado. Okay, and I mask it with bravado. In a fixed mindset, I'm fragile. Little things can turn me sideways. I live in fear. I rely on myself, and because I'm afraid to ask for help, and I experience things that are humiliating to me. So fixed mindset is a place that I find myself a lot, but I want to be in the growth mindset. And and when I'm in a growth mindset, I'm open to trying new things. I'm opening to listening to new ideas. I am coachable. Okay. I'm resilient. I'm confident. I have faith, and I live in humility. Okay. So humiliation and humility, we've talked about this before. They're the same word root. Humiliation has a very negative connotation. Humility has a very positive connotation. And I define humility as a clear recognition of who and what I really am, followed by a sincere attempt to be all I can be. So for instance, if I did a 5K run, and let's say I did it in 24 minutes. Okay. When I was 21 years old, if I did a 24-minute 5K, I would be pissed, and I would be making all these excuses about why I did bad, and how the race wronged me, and I was a victim of all these bad breaks and misunderstandings. But now that I'm 54 and I do a 24-minute 5K, I'm elated, and it's all perspective. But my race, my time is my race, my time. You may be faster than me, and you will always judge and compare. You're faster, or slower. But the mindset, from humiliation of oh my God, I was so slow, I had a 24-minute race, to humility, oh my God, I'm so awesome, I had a 24-minute 5K. Okay. And it's because we have these stories that go in our mind about ourselves. Okay. And Lao Tzu said, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. And so, if I'm going to achieve something big, I have to set aside the stories that I grew up with and the stories that are active in my brain, because that story only gets me this far. And I have to let go of some old ideas so I can build new pathways, new ideas, new mindsets to help me get through to the next level that I'm looking to do. Okay. Whatever you believe, you're right. Okay. I know some of you on this call right now will say, oh my God, I can never do an Ironman. You're absolutely right. You will never do an Ironman if you think that. Ironman has this this mantra called anything is possible. And with the right mindset, anything is possible. The people that I raced with at the World Championships, they're all size, shapes, colors, genders, etc. And you look at them, some of those people, you look like, yeah, they are an uber fit person. They are triathletes. And you look at some other people like, how the hell can you do that? And they fucking beat me. Okay. They were faster than me. It's all a mindset. Okay. And these stories are so ingrained in our psyche, we don't even know anything differently. These thought patterns and process are sometimes all we need. Sometimes they're holding us back. As I said before, the brain can change, but it takes effort and behavior, just like it takes effort to learn how to run 26 miles. Okay. Physical effort, your brain with a plan can also change. Okay. I can't fix my broken brain with my broken brain. I needed to have a plan with focused action, to change my brain. Okay. And it allowed me to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth type mindset. So the mindfulness is what we're going to talk about now. And the benefits of mindfulness include a better connection with others and a connection to a higher purpose. Okay. I get for the most part, I don't get turned sideways when things go wrong. So I have a balanced response to stimuli. I find myself quickly finding acceptance in the situation. I have an extreme focus. That's what I love about this picture. My brother took this picture of me in Chicago, where everything's a little bit out of focus, but in my mind, I was in a complete set of focus doing this run. I have a huge drive to succeed. I have a lot more energy and I have a huge sense of accomplishment. So how do I train my brain? And mindfulness training can include many things. This is the Thinker that was sculpted by Rodin. Every time I go to Washington, D.C., this is another place I go to. I go and sit and I just ponder on this sculpture, and it's unbelievable. So I need to spend time in quiet contemplation. I need to spend time in quiet contemplation. Okay. I train my brain the same way I train my body to perform. This brain exercise activates the important parasympathetic nervous system that I need to, have active during these races. Okay. During exercise, the sympathetic nervous system is dominant, but we need to access the parasympathetic too. Okay. When we're in when we activate the parasympathetic, everything slows down. You talk about the zone that Michael Jordan was in, or Kobe Bryant. They get in that zone. Everything is moving fast, except in their brain. Everything is going in slow motion, and they know exactly where everything is and what they're supposed to do. That's parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. Your heart rate actually lowers during this. Okay. And the goal of this mindfulness training is to bring this mountaintop experience to my everyday life. Okay. This was taken in Southern California. I don't remember the mountain, but I just sat there and, my friend took a picture of me. You don't have to be able to sit cross-legged, balancing on a ball with your fingers, touching this way. This is my daughter, my 10-year-old, the dancer that you saw before. Most of the time I'm sitting on my chair, looking back, laying back, ready to close my eyes and meditate. So we do this. So Kobe and Michael, the fiercest competitors, the greatest basketball players that ever played, in my opinion. I'm not going to go there. Okay. If you have different opinions, but they were both taught to visualize the game this way. If you saw them in the locker room before, they were quiet in the corner or in a different room. Their eyes were closed and they were going through things in their mind. Kobe Bryant was notorious for calling Michael at 3 a.m. because he was visualizing, how can he get an edge on that one competitor? How can he get ahead of that one defensive stopper that where he screwed up? He was always looking at that. And it was taught to him by Tim. It was taught to him by another guy named George Mumford, who wrote a book called The Mindful Athlete, who I know Tim was, known for, bringing in physical training in a big way to Michael's world. But George was the one that brought in the mindful stuff that, from what I read. Okay. And I may be wrong there. And so, short meditation. This is something Marianne Williamson, if you know anything about her, she ran for president of the United States last go around, but she's known more for her work with the Course of Miracles. And she wrote in one of her books a book was called Illuminata. The beginning of the book, she has this little poem that she says, and I read this before I do my meditation. So if you guys can do me a favor and kind of just close your eyes and listen for a second, and let me read this to you and just kind of follow my lead. Okay. And then this is an example of what meditation is. So if you can all close your eyes for a second and listen as I go and try and follow my lead. I see in my mind a little ball of golden light. I watch this light as it begins to grow larger and larger until now it covers the entire inner vision of my mind. I see within this light a beautiful temple. I see a garden that surrounds the temple and a body of water that flows through the garden. I see that the inside of the temple is lit by the same beautiful golden light, and I am here. For I've been drawn here by the power and the presence of God, or the universe, whatever you want to call it. I dedicate my days and my relationships and my experience to you. May your spirit, which is within me, so guide my thoughts, my feelings, and my perceptions of all things that I might grow into a happier, more peaceful, more loving human being. Illumine my mind, illumine my life. Amen. And I sit on that for a little bit. And just let that light kind of spread through my body, and I could just feel the energy move through. Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. Okay. Come on back to life here. Okay. I also use meditation apps. Headspace has a great program. It's not too expensive. It's like $50 a year. Right now I've been using Calm on a pretty regular basis. And these are guided meditations where I have my headphones on and I just do what they say, kind of like what I just did for you. And, there's a 10-minute daily meditation in the morning. There's also a wind down meditation at night. There's mini meditations during that I can use throughout the day. Sometimes throughout the day, if I don't have time for a formal meditation, I'll take 10 really deep breaths. And those breaths reset my brain and reset my mindset. And it's amazing. Another thing that I do is visualization. I have a vision board. I know Lindsay talked about this last week, and it's a visual representative of my goals and aspirations, and it's a motivational tool for me. A friend of mine made this for me, and it's one of my most prized possessions. As that was a gift to me, because I look at it. I didn't create it, but she knew me so well. A recovering friend of mine who's sober a little bit longer than me. She knows me so well. She put all these things in there, and I look at this in the morning sometimes, or just stare at it. It's right behind my desk. I'm looking at it right now, actually. And, and something pops in my head, something that my eyes focus on, it seems to work. Okay. So like right now, unstoppable power, that's where my brain, my eyes went. That's how I feel I am. I am an unstoppable power, and I want to act that way. How can I act that way today? Meditate, no reason to hide, stay open-minded, change your thoughts, you'll change the world. These are things that just, my eyes focus on. I never have a plan with it, but I lock on, and that's my theme for the day sometimes, or theme for the moment, a reminder that I need to be. At the Ironman, they have you write a little note to the universe on their own version of a vision board. And in 2018, I wrote dreams do come true. In 2019, I wrote anything is possible. It's totally improbable that I made it here, and I wanted to put that out into the universe. And I believe when you put it out like that, it becomes an affirmation and it becomes part of you. Thinking only gets me so far. I have to act, and by acting, my brain changes. Okay. An example of that was Wayne Gretzky. When he was a kid, his dad, he was so hyperactive. His dad, he'd watch hockey, and his dad would give him a paper and a pen, and he'd tell him, Wayne, just scribble along the way the puck is going. Keep scribbling, keep scribbling, keep scribbling. And before you knew it, he had a mindset. He knew where those pucks were going to go because he trained himself to do that. Hours and hours and hours watching, days and days, seasons and seasons before, he became who he was. But this was all building his ability to visualize. He knew where the puck was going to go because he had watched it. He'd become part of it, and he acted upon it as his brain was growing, and it became part of him. The Iron War in 1989, this is Mark Allen and Dave Scott. This was a race where these two guys were within 2 or 3 feet of each other the entire freaking race. Okay. They were hitting each other's feet in the swim. They were right on each other's tails in the bike, and they were running like this the entire marathon. Not a single word was spoken between them. Okay. It was the fastest race in the history up till then. And it was a brain game. They were the exact same level of fitness. And what happened at the end, when Dave Scott when Mark Allen finally took over, and his brain, he was stronger. He had a stronger mindset at the end there, and allowed him to get the victory. Only in the last half mile of the race, they sat there like this the whole day, didn't say a word to each other. That's focus. That's the focus that I needed to get through my own Ironman. That's the focus I need when I want to accomplish something big. I got to get into that mindset. All in. This is what cleaners do, in Tim's vernacular. If you want to look up, different scientific articles, do a PubMed search, type in, the benefits of meditation, benefits of mindfulness. You'll find thousands and thousands of articles to show how your brain changes and improves with these kind of exercises. Okay. Aristotle wrote a lot about happiness, and he talks about how if you balance work with play, love, and worship, that's where you'll find that sweet spot of happiness. And I find when I am focused in one area, much out of balance focus in one area, I have to look at this and reset myself and intentionally go back. I tend to go towards the play side a lot, and I have to intentionally go back and get back into work mindset, and I have to get back into love mindset because I get pretty selfish, and I have to get into the worship and the spirituality aspect of it, and if I don't do that, I'm miserable, and I default that way. Okay, this is my wife and I, and she's on the bottom. No, I'm just kidding. It's not us. But the balance is something I've never been able to perfect. And but if you can, take time from your busyness to build your production capacity, okay, through personal renewal of the physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual dimensions, you will find that level of happiness. Okay, so we have to get our mindset right. And in 2020, I ran 1,229 miles. I was the most I had ever run. This was the 2 years after that Ironman. Okay. It was also the year of the pandemic. And so I had a lot of running to do. But when I was training, a lot of times I'd be getting up, it's cold out, it's dark out, and I'd have to, talk myself into getting out of bed. And, and that was my biggest struggle. It wasn't the miles, it was getting out on the road. Okay. It was, the brain games I had to play with myself were much more difficult than the actual physical training. Okay. This is the energy lab at Kona. And I like putting this in there because you can't have rainbows without the rain. Okay. The rain is going to happen, and, but it will pass. All storms pass, and things that may seem dark and bleak and ugly become, beautiful in time. Everything passes. So what do I do for mindset stuff? I meditate, as I said before. I do guided and free form. Okay, the guided is usually through Headspace, through Calm. I know there's YouTube videos. There's tons of others. You can do it as a group. And I've seen people, the whole room levitate if you do it together and things like that. Another thing I do is I journal. And after my meditation, I journal, and the 5-minute journal app asks you to name 3 things you're grateful for. And so I write down 3 things. And the trick is you can't repeat something. I can't say, oh, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my sobriety. I'm grateful for my family. I can't say that every time. I have to think of new things to be grateful for that every single day. And sometimes it becomes very hard. So I have to find mundane things that I'm grateful for. And it forces me to seek gratitude in the moment. I'm grateful right now that there's electricity that is powering my computer and my camera and the internet, that I can share what I'm doing with you right now. That would be something I'm grateful for. Electricity, in that scope. And so it forces you to be, find gratitude in the mundane. And when we're living in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Okay. That's when everything is happening. The future hasn't happened yet. The past you can't change. In the moment is where the bliss lives. Okay. And so I journal that. I also journal my workout performance. I journal how my goals are going. What's going right, what's not going right. What did I learn? What did I eat? How did I sleep? All these things play into how well I perform, whether it's athletically or through professional or personal goals. Okay. I have a coach, and that coach, Shad, puts together my workout plan every week. He would send me my plan at the end of the week, and we'd work out once or twice during the week together. And we'd communicate, and he'd see some of my journaling to see how I was doing, how I was feeling. He would adjust that plan for me. It was just one more thing that I didn't have to think about, but I had to give him feedback so he knew what to put for the next week's, goals and plans. Okay. Another thing that is really important to me is joining like-minded people. This is why I joined the Legends group. This is why I joined Down and Dirty, because I knew I had big goals in my life that are ahead of me. I'm running for president of the American Dental Association, and I need people who are extremely driven with huge aspirations in their life to be around me. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm sharing with you. And that's why I love, what you guys have shared with us, because, we kind of hold each other accountable. I'm like, well, if they're doing that, I better get my ass going too. Okay. And sharing of your experiences. Now, I've shared with you some of mine. It will get filed in your hippocampus, in that memory center. And then when you need it, you can access those experiences as if, not that you've done it, but someone that did it, and that's someone that overcame it. Therefore, you think there's a possibility you can overcome it too, and it drives you forward. Okay. I'm vigilant with my sleep. And, because I get up at 4:35 in the morning to work out and do all these things that I talked about with my meditation and journaling. I need sleep. So I'm guarded. I guard that with everything. I eat as balanced as I can. Lots of, you guys, I'm not going to go into the controversy of diet, but for me, what works best is a whole food diet, clean vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of fibers. I eat meat, but it's clean meat. It's, I don't need any chemicals in my body that will poison my brain or poison the functions that I need to be at optimal performance. So that's how I do it. And when I do that, the gut is producing a shit ton of serotonin and I'm in a good space. Okay. I read a ton. I'm a voracious student of whatever goal I'm going after. Okay. When it was, my first big goal, it was getting sober. I went after the best people in the rooms, the recovery rooms that I was at, who seemed to have the best life. And I'd go and ask them to help me, guide me, mentor me. I did it as a dentist. I'm doing it now as a leader in my profession. And ask them how we do things and how you do things. So, what was your, and these people, these mentors that I seek out, what was their mindset I look for, when they're doing these great things. I love the story of how Tim, started cold calling the different NBA teams to try and get a job to work with them one-on-one. He had a very solid vision of what he wanted to do, and he went after it. And I guarantee you, he was in a lot of fear at the time, but he was determined and he kept moving forward. I want to know what their struggles were. How did they overcome those challenges? And what were your fears and things like that? And and that gets filed into my hippocampus. Okay. And, when I bring that back to the Ironman, people ask me, well, how long did I train for that? I'm like, well, my coach put together a, 7-8 month program, training program for me, but I was training my whole life for that. All the things that I'd done up to there, experiences I was able to access during race day, and everything you don't realize it till you're in these extreme circumstances that how resilient we've become through what we've gone through. Okay. Another great book that I read, 15, 20 years ago, George Sheehan, who was part of the running movement in the 70s with Jim Fixx. It's called Running and Being. He talks about how we are an experiment of one. What works for me may not work for you, but some of what works for me may work for you and vice versa. Okay. We need to figure that out. Okay. How do we overcome obstacles in the moment? And, attitude is everything with this. Some people dance in the rain, other people just get wet. What is your choice? Okay. And, I've never had the perfect race where there were no obstacles in the moment. Okay. Every race I did had challenges that I had to overcome that I did not plan for. But because I planned so much of everything that I thought could go wrong, I had a lot of bandwidth to overcome the challenges in the moment. So what do you do when things happen? The first thing I do is breathe. I talked about that before. I'll take 5 to 10 really deep breaths and get re-centered, reset myself. Okay. Get right-minded. What emotional state am I in? My emotional intelligence has to be, solid for me to achieve these things. What am I feeling at the moment? Remind myself, what is the goal? My goal at that point was to get across the finish line. Even though I don't want to right now, even though I want to quit right now, I'm going to move forward. And that was my drive. Okay. So I check in then on my running form. How am I running? Am I slunched over? How's my gait? How's my posture? How's my breathing? Where's my head? And I'll check in on my nutrition. I'll check in on my hydration. Okay. And, a lot of times, especially now, in my professional life, I will work 18 hours in a row and I won't eat anything. I'm so in a zone trying to figure something out, trying to write out a speech or read through these documents that I have to read to get me ready for what I need to do. Hours and hours will go by and I was just focused and I hadn't drank in a lot of time and my brain goes south quickly. Okay. In the moment when, like, say I fell off my bike, that hasn't happened, thank God, in a long time, but am I hurt? Okay. Is it real? Is it, that it just in the moment isn't going to pass? What are my options right here? What can I do right now to make an immediate impact? And if I can't go on the way that I thought? Is it still possible to move on in a different way? Can I change my running gait if my knee's hurting? Okay. And then can I go one more mile? Remind myself, run the mile I'm in, bike the mile I'm in, swim the mile I'm in. A lot of times if I'm dehydrated or under nutrition, I will, if I set that up a mile later, I'm right back where I need to be. Okay. Setting goals. Everyone's got them here. I know that's why you're here. Goals are, I have to stretch my comfort zone. If I don't stretch my comfort zone, then they're just checklists. Okay. We are goal oriented in this group. And that's what I love about this group. We stretch ourselves. We share them with our supporters. That's what I do. That's why I am with you guys. I love sharing it with one-on-one or with you, because my vulnerabilities allow you to be vulnerable too. And my courage to set these goals and achieve these things, hopefully gives you permission to do the same. Okay. And then I get accountability with you guys holding me to those goals as I hold you to yours. Okay. And then develop a plan, a physical plan, a mental plan, and enlist help, get my coaching, get all the people out there to support me. Okay. Celebrate my progress along the way. Evaluate my bumps in the road, keep my goals front and center. Okay. I have Ironman stuff all over. If you see me a lot, I'm always wearing Ironman shirts and things like that, because I wanted, first of all, I'm pretty proud of what I did, but it keeps it front and center. And, and what I had to do is, I couldn't be the same person to achieve a goal, a stretch goal. I had to change. And so for me, it's not all about that finish line. It's what I become or who I become as a result of pursuing that finish line. Okay. Remember, when I let go of who I am, I become what I might be. Okay. So I had to let go of some things and add some things in. Tim talks about the discipline of saying no, getting extreme focus towards achieving that. You can't have all that other stuff holding you down and competing for your bandwidth. Okay. So as a result of me crossing the finish line in 2018, okay, I learned that I could become teachable. I learned how to ask for help. I learned that I'm going to make mistakes and bad days are going to happen. And that's part of my human experience. I learned that the power of visualization really works, because damn it, that finish line scene that I went over in my head hundreds of times throughout those 7 months came true in real life. It was amazing. Okay. Angels seem to appear just at the right moment. Goethe talks about, when you're fully in, providence moves, and as you're on your path, different things will come in to your path and hold your hand for a little while or inspire you to move forward just at the right times. Okay. I also learned that I became an inspiration to many by sharing my journey authentically, and I found my why. And through the years of self-reflection and growth and journaling and this kind of stuff, I learned that I'm a catalyst for positive change in the world. And I love to be around people who are challenging the status quo. I love to be around people who are growing. Okay. I love adventures, and in the process, it was a lot of hours, training, but I made it fun. I went to all over the country and rode my bike and ran in these totally obscure, crazy mountain ranges and saw beautiful things. Here I am at a snowshoe race with my daughter, who was 13 at the time, up in Beaver Creek. And I did, the exact same snowshoe race 2 weeks ago. She didn't join me, but she still does that with me, and we have a blast. I play while I'm doing this. I meet new people, new places, and new adventures, and it keeps it fresh. And at the end, you get to cross the line, and these moments of glory are fleeting, because I got in the race in 2018. I didn't know what I was going to do next, and I was kind of lost. I'll be honest with you. And by golly, I got into the race a few months later in 2019, and that's a whole other story. But I needed a next. Okay, we are all about, okay, you got your win. What's next? You can't live on your previous win. That's not what we do. So I was able to do that twice. If you guys saw the movie, if anyone saw the movie Forrest Gump, there's an opening scene where there's a a feather that just kind of floats in the wind, and it kind of lands in different landscapes, and if the wind takes it, it lands in another to another place and lands in a different landscape, and it keeps going. And that feather metaphor was a metaphor for the movie, how Forrest Gump just kind of, went with the flow, and he landed in these amazing, events in history and stuff like that. And it's a fairy tale. Okay. I can't live that way. Okay. And many of us just do that. We live, we live in the way that the wind is blowing us, and that's where we go. I'm talking about finding ways to set intention and setting direction and trimming those sails. Even if the wind's at your face, you're going forward. Okay. And, so, living with intention, this is Forrest Gump Point in Arizona, in Monument Valley. And I was driving through it. I'm like, holy shit, this looks like Forrest Gump. And sure enough, there was a sign, Forrest Gump Point. And so I got out and I took a picture, and tried to mimic the same thing, all by my mind, because I saw it, on a movie. I was able to, access my hippocampus and do this, recreate this picture. Okay. Mama always said, you got to put the past behind you before you can move on. And that's what I think my running was all about. I've been running for 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now. And so that's, as I close up, this part of the talk, I'm just going to give you a call to action. Grow your emotional quotient, grow your emotional intelligence, try and figure out in the moment, what are you feeling? Are you in a growth mindset? Are you in a fixed mindset? Try meditating. Okay. Try it with guided. Some people say, well, I can't sit still. I can't do it. Try it. You can sit still for 10 minutes. I know you can. Okay. Or I used to do it when I run. I would set an intention when I'd run, and I'd have a mantra, and that's a form of meditation. Try it, free meditation, try visualization, put your goal right front and center so you can't not see it on a daily basis. Okay. It's a great reminder. Try journaling. Try strategies that I gave you for when things go wrong. Try those 5 to 10 deep breaths to reset yourself. Set those big, hairy, audacious goals. Even if they're not clear, stretch yourself. Try and, accomplish something that you never could imagine. Go for a race, lose the weight, climb a mountain, do something with your kids, do something that is totally out of the ordinary. And this is another time I went back to Monument Valley, and this time I caught it at sunset. And and I could say that all these tools that I shared with you have helped me successfully cross the finish line of Ironmans. Okay, but even more important, these tools I'm using them in my everyday life. Okay, I feel that I can experience life to the fullest in everything I do. I swear it really works. Okay. I intentionally try to show up as my best self in all aspects of my life by using these tools. I'm on my way towards living a life of significance and joy every single day. What have you got to lose? This is a bibliography, and I'm happy to share these slides with you. Paul or Jamie, if you want to post them, you're more than welcome. And I'm just going to leave this up, and I'm going to shut up for a while. And thank you all for allowing me to indulge myself on how my brain works, and I encourage you to try something new if you don't do this already, or if you do some of this, I'd encourage you to share what you do, so we all can learn from it. So
awesome, Brett. Thank you so much for that. At some point, maybe Paul, if you can take a screenshot of this slide so we can share it. I do have 3 people that have put questions in the chat. Lindsay, you are first. I will go ahead and do my best to ask your question, but feel free to unmute and add to it.
Okay, real quick though, Paul,
yeah.
Have you taken the screenshot? Because I want to go off share screen mode so I can see everybody.
I know Jason has it. He said in the
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So
I'm
go
gonna.
ahead.
You got it or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
we've got it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and
Get all of our faces here in the game.
Brett, I didn't get it, buddy. Can you just put up for 1 second?
Let's see.
If not, I'll get it from one of the other guys.
Yes,
Yeah,
say,
I'll
we
post
can
it.
put the screenshot in the group.
I got it. I'll post it right
You got
now.
it? Okay,
Thanks, brother. Thanks.
cool. Thank you.
All right. So let me go back to the questions that I took note of in the chat while you were talking. Lindsay asked one, she says, did your mind go somewhere dark to tap into what you needed to finish? Because you said you got bored. How did you get unbored mentally? What did you tell yourself?
So, it took me 14 hours to finish the race. Around 14 hours. That's my average time for an Ironman. Okay. And that's a lot of time to be moving your body. And there's a lot, I've experienced many ups, many downs throughout that day. And first, when I got into a dark space, it was usually because something was going wrong. Where I started, the legs started cramping, and immediately I future fucked myself. Usually, I hate to say it that way, but I'm like, okay, I'm only halfway through my race and I'm cramping already. I still got 7 hours in front of me. How am I going to get through this? I'm never going to make it. My brain just starts going down. And then, I'm like, okay, but I'm not going to let it. I came this far. I'm not going to let it. So I did that checklist, how's my hydration? How's my nutrition? How's my form? What am I feeling? This fear, is that really true? Is that really what I want? What's the goal? Why am I here? All the people that that are watching me, my ego plays a part in this. We talked about ego last go round. I don't want to look bad. So, and in that moment, I could take those 10 deep breaths, and it does stimulate serotonin and endorphin release, and it puts me in a different mindset. And it was a series of those. It was, Tim talks about that marathons are a series of sprints and recoveries, and this race was that. And just using the race as a metaphor, but in my real life, in my professional goals and things that I want to do, I'm cycling. My mindset is cycling up and down. It's a big sine wave. And I do my best. The better I am at controlling my thoughts, I can't control my thoughts, but I can control what I do with my thoughts. The better I can control them, the better I'm going to perform. So does that answer your question, Lindsay?
Not sure if she's going to unmute or not.
We'll assume that is. Okay, good.
She says yes. Okay. I like that idea, though, that you can't control your thoughts. You can only control what you can do with your thoughts. And that is very profound.
Yeah. Just because the train comes into the station doesn't mean you got to hop on it. Okay. Yeah. You can, decide what to do with it.
Absolutely. Okay.
The key is, like Chad just said, you have to be aware of your goals and stuff. And so go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Jason asked a question a while back. He said, do you think your desire to go into these extreme physical challenges is a way of compensating or giving your addictive personality something else to focus on? And then Jason, unmute if you'd like to add to that.
Go ahead.
I mean, not much to add to that. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's one of those things, because I think I have probably an addictive personality as well, and I find a lot of times that people who have overcome addiction or are dealing with addiction, they find themselves going all in on something else that is super hardcore, and really what it's doing, it's just and I'd say it's just distracting. It makes it sound bad, but it's focusing that personality on something that's more positive for them rather than something that's destructive.
Yeah, that's a good spin on it. The reality is, I'm addicted to feeling good with the least amount of effort. Okay. And when and people who have addictions such as what I had and other people, they do run to extremes, and that's absolutely the definition of addiction, though, is this repeat behavior, substance use and stuff, and despite of negative consequences, you still choose to use. Okay. And so, so I'm not experiencing negative consequences by doing these. I'm experiencing positive consequences. And I can tell you, when I got sober back in '98, I got inspired to live my best life. And I can use that same obsessive compulsive behaviors, although I didn't know it at the time, but I could use them to accomplish great things. And, you know, when I did the race in 18, you know, I obviously, yeah, I wanted to do it for me and I wanted to do it for my ego, but I really did it more for a cause. I did it to raise money for leukemia. My mom died of leukemia the year before, and I did it in her honor, you know, and my mom was with me, you know, most of the day, you know, and I kept hearing the whisper, keep going, man, you got it, Brett, you know, and so that was there. But the behaviors that, you know, again, I trained my brain through those years of compulsive drug use to go after something and don't let go until you get there. I was just blessed enough to get out of the cycle of addiction and turn it into something where I can be useful to the world. So it's definitely a two-edged sword.
All right.
But wait, one more thing. Sorry,
Yeah,
Jamie.
go ahead.
You know, 95% of the people that do these races don't have addiction, substance abuse. They maybe have, you know, compulsive behaviors, but they didn't have addiction. So.
All right. The next question comes from Michael. He says, what does that meal plan look like? And then he had a follow-up question. What are some practices that helped you let go of those past stories?
Okay, so meal plan. So I try and keep it simple. You know, I want a guy that I follow, you know, talks about that males should have 35 grams of fiber every day, and from whole food sources, not from Metamucil and things like that. It's got to be from fruit, vegetables, grains, etc. And so I try and accomplish that. I'm not someone who counts my macros, where I used to sit and munch on chips and candy bars and things like that because I needed the carbs. I try and stay away from processed foods as much as I can, even though I still eat, you know, chips and crackers and things like that. I'll substitute carrots and hummus for chips and dip. You know, those kind of, you know, conscious choices that I have to intentionally do, because I'll default back to eating crap. Where before I started with this diet, I was mostly, you know, meat, hamburgers, chicken, that kind of stuff. You know, where that was, you know, 2/3 of my plate, and then any kind of vegetables was, you know, basically a potato type thing, starch, and you know, maybe a little bit of greens here and there. Now I've shifted to the other way, where 2/3 of my plate is now vegetables, you know, high in fiber, lots of dark colors, you know, greens, reds, beets, avocados, lettuce, kale, those kind of things. And then 1/3 of it is meat. So I'm getting the balance of protein. That's what works for me. I don't strictly follow a diet. I went vegetarian for a while, but I love meat, you know, and I don't want to give it up. I love eggs in the morning, so I don't want to give it up. So that's what I do. And I don't count, but I kind of, in my mind, I know an avocado is like about 18 to 20 grams of fiber. If I get one avocado in a day, you know, and you know, the rest just happens through eating, you know, vegetables and fruit. Okay. The other question was about letting go of the stories. Is
Yes.
that
what are some practices that helped you let go of those past stories?
So in, you know, all logic in the history and the way that I used to drink and the way I used to use drugs, there's all logic points to that I should be dead. Okay. The amount of drugs that I did at any given time, the people I hung out with, that I say they carried guns, but not badges. It was not pretty. And, you know, the amount of times I drove drunk or, you know, drove under the influence, of other things, all probably I was heading towards death. And over the years, in my first year of sobriety, a guy that I got sober with relapsed and he died. Okay. And so it really made it clear to me, and put things into perspective that, I've been saved for whatever reason. I've been saved. I've been given this chance to live my best life, and spending time in morbid reflection serves me no purpose whatsoever. I feel that for whatever reason, the universe spared me, and for some reason, and I feel that reason is to share my purpose and make the world a better place. So I intentionally do that. So I'm very open about my recovery. That could be another Tim talk if we ever want to do that. I could share what I did and how I got through my recovery, my addiction, and into my recovery. And I find whenever I share my story, someone gets something out of it in a positive way. It may not be immediate, but I plant seeds. And so I'm not ashamed of who I was. I'm ashamed of what I did when I was in my addiction. But I'm much more happy with the person I am now. And so I had to let go of those stories that just because this was me, and this is what happened to me, I don't have to be that person anymore. I can live a life filled with joy, filled with purpose, and see the impact I'm making on the world in real time. So everybody's got a journey to get through those things, and everybody had shit happen to them. I don't care who you are. Okay. But you have to get through those hard times, and meditation, mindfulness, exercise, all those things, gratitude practice, all those things, can help rewire your brain to allow you to tell yourself a better story.
All right, good. Before I go on to the next question, I'm completely fascinated by the fact that you focus on fiber rather than protein, because that's not something I think I've ever heard from an athlete before.
So fiber from whole food sources, fruits and vegetables, it allows your microbiome in your gut to really thrive, and it diversifies it. And a thriving, healthy gut microbiome, it allows for the optimal nutrition and then the maximum amount of serotonin released. Yeah,
that's something I need to follow up on.
Okay.
As queen of the canister of Benefiber. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question here. Damien, and feel free to unmute if I don't get the whole gist of your question. But he thanks you, and he says, regarding these habits, meditation, journaling, visualization, what do you think about Alex Hormozy's mindset about the fact, according to him, that daily routines make you weak and dependent on them in order to get into your optimum status, instead of just getting the work done right there and then?
Not familiar with who you referenced, but I can tell you that daily routines for me, sometimes they become mundane, and sometimes they become rote and regular, and and just boxes that I check. And so that's, but when I set my goals for X amount of time, 2 weeks out